All right, so this afternoon I'll start off by giving an update on the Cannes Symposium 23 and the Paris session that's upcoming in 24. So the Cannes International Symposium, it was run at the Cannes Convention Centre, run between the 4th and 7th of September. It was hosted by the C2 and C5 study committees, with the key theme being the end-to-end electricity system, transition, development, operation and integration. So 11 of our 16 global study committees were supported and attended the symposium. I won't go through that list there, but you've got visibility there of the 11 that have turned up. While we were organising the actual symposium, we also took the opportunity to also run the CPAC and CIDR events. And this proved to be quite successful. And again, the reasoning behind it was we knew that we had a large national contingent of delegates coming along, but also internationals that were coming along. So the decision to hold those two events at the same time proved to be successful also. The next couple of slides, I'm just going to go through them as quickly as possible, but it just talks a little bit about the planning and just how important it is to actually be organised and plan for these type of events, and just the amount of effort that it actually takes. We had a lot of people involved right from day one, and the planning for this event was over a 5-year period. It started back in 2017 when a case was put forward to the board. This is the Australian board, to actually seek approval to host a symposium. So the board did give it approval, and a suitable location and venue were found immediately. In 2018, we had the Paris sessions. We took the opportunity for all of our technical conveners to present to their study committees. We also had the National Council lobby for the symposium event, and it was presented and won the hosting rights. In 2018 and 20, there was a whole lot of planning, and promotion was aimed to encourage as many study committees to attend as possible. By 2020 and 22, we had at that point in time 10 study committees that were committed to attend. And I remember at that time we were also really trying to target around 300 to 350 delegates to attend the actual symposium. By 220, it was another Paris session. Excuse me. We also had panel conveners who provided, again, with marketing video, and presented and shared at their study committee meetings. At this point in time, we had the A3 panel also decide to join. So at this point in time, we had 11 study committees joining. We had a very successful promotional booth that was set up at the Paris session, and it proved, like I say, to be very successful. We had a photo booth, and you can see there's a lovely photo there of Asif, Alex, and Terry Killen. And it was there done as very much as a promotional a task. We also had, by the end of the Paris 22 sessions, we had super early bird registrations open, and a website was finalised so that registrations could start occurring. In 2023, what a very successful year. So registrations began climbing very early in the year. We had a lot of marketing that was done via LinkedIn and social media. We had sponsors, and exhibitor numbers also began to come on board and take up sponsorships. By April 23, we had numbers of around 500 delegates. At that point in time, we decided to actually hire out the whole entire convention centre. Then we tried to focus and target numbers at 800 delegates. By July 2023, our numbers were nearing 1,000. So we did the unusual thing of actually backing up with our advertising, or backing down with our advertising, so as not to overcrowd the event. But by August 23, we did actually reach 1,300 delegates. In fact, we went over. But by August, we were actually very much in fun preparations for the meeting, most definitely preparations for the meeting, but also doing lots of technical preparations also, and we'll talk a little bit about the technical stuff in a moment. So I think just, again, I'll just pause, because there was a lot of volunteers and a lot of planning that occurred throughout this 5-year period. So these type of things don't happen very simply, but they do take a lot of effort and very deliberate effort to actually make an event like this happen. Just some high-level statistics. I like numbers. I think if I wasn't an electrical engineer, I probably would have been a mathematician. We had over 1,300 attendees. 40% of them were international delegates from 30 different countries. We had 11 study committees. 240 presentations were presented. We had 10 tutorials and 2 workshops. We had 51 meetings. We had the Confluence tool that was proved to be a success. We had 184 volunteer reviewers who had reviewed 1,561 reviews and entered them all into a Confluence tool. So what an amazing effort when you think about those numbers. The proceedings are to be published by the end of November, including all the papers and presentations. We also will have top papers from each study committee, which will be published in the Seagraves Science and Engineering Journal. So just from a statistics perspective, you can just see the amount of effort that was actually undertaken. So this takes not just one person, but it takes a whole committee, a whole community of C-grade people to actually make this happen. Again, from statistics perspective, this graph shows us papers by country of submitting author. So what you can see there is that we had 115 papers coming in from Australia, with a follow-up coming in from Japan at 29 papers. After that was very closely followed up by Brazil, India, and the United States, sitting around the 10 or 11 mark. But again, just the number of papers from the many different international countries that came and supported the event was quite phenomenal. We had Dr. Sean McGoldrick do the opening of the ceremony. We had keynote speakers also at the opening ceremony with Mr. David Shanky and Mr. Adam Middleton. We had a special event for Women in Energy breakfast with keynote speaker being Miss Marion York. This slide just gives, I won't go through each number there, but gives us a bit of a feel for where the delegates came from. So overall, we had 1,377 delegate registrations. We had 73% of those being Australian, New Zealand, with the remainder being 27% internationals. We had delegates from over 35 countries, and we had female attendees coming in at just over 8%, so which is really pleasing to see. So this graph, again, just delegate numbers, what you can see there and the story that it tells is that as of late 22, so over the last 9 months, that's when registrations really started climbing. There was a lot of effort there with regard to promotional material being advertised on LinkedIn and social media. The sponsors and exhibitor numbers also, and what you'll see here is probably just a little bit of a different story because the numbers do actually start ramping up from June 22. So there's a fair bit of effort there in contacting our sponsors and exhibitors and trying to round them up to help them support the event. And that type of work took definitely, I think 15 to 18 months to really start ramping up. And again, we had about 80% representation from Australia, with the remaining coming in at 20% internationally. Like any major event, there was a core organisational team. And before I go through the names here, I just really wanted to acknowledge that there are many people who actually came and helped and support to actually plan this event. It's impossible for me to capture everybody's name, but I am very thankful of all the people that have come through to support. So from a local organising committee perspective, so Phil Southwell was chairing that. We had an amazing job and quite an incredible amount of effort undertaken by Alex Cruikshank, who was a technical committee chairman. We also had Andrew Halley as the technical tour coordinator. Terry Quillen was doing project management, including sponsor liaison, administration and business support. We had Debbie Hancock with sponsorship and event coordination. We have Brendan, who's here today also, with AV and technical. We had Linda Gleason doing graphic and design. We also, as per any major event, we had a symposium oversight and audit subcommittee, which was chaired by David Bones. And we also had a Women in Energy breakfast team who, at that point in time, the breakfast was hosted by Nicola Falcon and was supported by Natasha, Jennifer and Tara Lee. So they're just some names that helped to actually help with the planning, but I can say that there are a lot of names there that aren't listed. And again, I extend my appreciation and thanks to all those volunteer members. Just wanted to make mention, some of you may have or may not be aware, but we also had 2 student award recipients. So this is really about reaching out to our next generation network and trying to provide support so that they can actually get some exposure in these type of events. We had 2 free student tickets, and we attracted 41 applicants. The 2 winners were Susan Leica, who's undertaken an engineering degree at the University of Western Australia, and Jack Bergmeister, who's also a student electrical engineer at the University of Adelaide. So both Susan and Jack were very appreciative of the invitation and really very much enjoyed the symposium. At this point in time, I just want to very quickly just thank all our sponsors and all our exhibitors. Without them, we could not have made the symposium a success. And it certainly made it for a very interesting time, being able to speak to all our exhibitors also. I'll move on to the upcoming Paris 24 session. So the session will be held in Paris, in France, between the 25th and 30th of August 24. So preparations are already in place. And just a little bit about it. It is an event that's held on a 2-yearly cycle. It's held every even year. It's throughout the event, Seagra's focus is to operate the world's foremost collaborative knowledge development and sharing program. It is a face-to-face event. It will be held in Paris at the Palais de Congrès. It attracts over 8,000 participants from 120 different countries. It will have over 160 working group meetings with over 30 study committee sessions. It'll have over 800 technical papers, and I pulled that figure out because I think that's what it's been targeting, but from Alex's presentation this morning, I think it's going to be over 1,000 is what I'm hearing now.
Oh, we just don't know at the moment, just too many.
Yeah, too many, which is really great. And we'll have over 300 technical exhibitions. So a lot of reasons to come along to the Paris session. So about the session and throughout the week. So there will be lots of presentations and discussions that will be held throughout the week. We do have a study committee group discussion meeting. And this is really where each one of our panels get together and they go through the papers. There are opportunities for delegates to actually be able to contribute through that process. Our study committees do actually, in preparation for the Paris session, produce what's called a special report. And they address the particulars of those papers under that panel. So if you are attending as a delegate, you do have an opportunity to also be able to contribute. There'll be poster sessions throughout the week also, and this gives all our delegates who are attending a face-to-face opportunity to actually speak with the paper authors. We'll have tutorials via the 16 panels. There'll be many different workshops. There'll be also a Women in Energy Forum. We always have a great Next Generation Network Forum also. There'll be plenty of technical exhibitions, lots of networking, and lots of other social activities. So the theme for the Paris 24 session is the end-to-end power system. It's about the further development of digitalisation. It's about also the proliferation of active distribution networks combined with a dramatic need for increasing utilisation of renewable energy sources towards reaching a carbon-free network. It's also going to be about the critical need for keeping the resilience, stability and security of power systems and the new edge developments on hydrogen and storage technologies. So there's a fair bit in there, but there'll be key themes in there that will be the focus of the discussions throughout the week. So I won't go through all these numbers, but it's just interesting to see who actually attends. So these are some statistics from the Seagra 22 session. We had 35% representatives coming from utilities, with 25% coming from manufacturers. So all up, just those two provide a 60% attendance. And the remaining 40% come from the other industry bodies. Okay, so this is actually quite an important timetable. It provides the paper submissions timetable. So where are we at right at the moment? So we've had the call for papers and synopses have been submitted. Paris office has now notified us and we have 29 Australian synopses that have been accepted. All authors have been notified and they are now busily preparing their papers. Some key dates there that are highlighted in red. So These papers need to come into the Australian office by the 19th of January. This will then give us a couple of weeks turnaround to actually review, make sure that the quality of the paper is going to be right, so that we don't have any issues when we actually submit to Paris. The final paper submission will occur on the 6th of February, and it will go through to the Paris office. At this point in time, the international study committees will pick these papers up and do a formal review again, and notification to authors of acceptance will occur on the 6th of May. In preparation for the 25th and through to the 30th of August, when the Paris session will be held. There will be further communications coming through from the Australian Technical Committee, but also from our communications that come through from the Australian office, just to keep everybody aware of these key dates. Okay.